My plan is to stay out of Atlantic City till Carla gets back, but the urge was too strong. I got to my office early Friday morning. After getting everything in order, I signed payroll checks. I called the Mercedes dealership where I bought our cars and made arrangements to drop mine off for its yearly state inspection. Then I called the Polynesian to send a limo to pick me up at the dealership. By 1 p.m., I was in the Polynesian baccarat pit negotiating with the pit boss. We settled on a $300 to $13,000 game. I signed a cash withdrawal slip for the $200,000 I had in the preferred player's cashier's cage. I told the dealer to give me half in $1,000 orange and the other half in $5,000 grays. I placed the cut card in the center of the decks to cut my destiny. I've been playing close to 4 hours and they kept knocking me down, but I kept getting back up. It was bad enough that I was down $85,000, but I also had to be at the football field by 6:30 p.m. I told Raymond's coaches I'd help them prepare for their playoff game. The clock was ticking, pressure was building, and the two opposite worlds I was living in were starting to collide. Halfway through the next shoe, I'm stuck another 20,000. By this point, I know the milk was sour, and this shoe was curling my stomach. I colored up. I have under $90,000. I started walking out of the pit. I got to the gold railing where there were a group of onlookers. They looked disappointed. They started to disperse in all directions. There were a few who stayed, hanging on with hope that their knight in his casino armor would somehow find the strength to go back into the arena. I turned around and saw the pit boss removing a $300 to $13,000 sign. The dealer stood behind the table in anticipation of who his next victim will be. I walked back to the blackjack table and I put my chips down. I stood in the center of the table. I asked the dealer if the fat lady sang yet. The few left on the other side of the gold railing cheered me on. One shoe later, I threw a $500 purple chip on the table in appreciation. Two security guards and my host, Larry Lipkin, escorted me out of the baccarat pit. We moved quickly across the casino floor to the private cashier's cage. The cashier takes my chips and hands me a deposit receipt for $285,000. She gives me another $3,000 in cash. I walked out of the cage. Larry Lipkin is waiting. I looked at him and said, "The comeback kid is still alive and kicking." The month of July ended and the sale numbers for the month were horrendous. I ordered as much fall merchandise as I could get with credit. Because of late payments, half the vendors put me on COD. The others cut my credit line in half. I'm a month behind with my ex-mother-in-law's rent and Jackie's $1,000 a month child support. Buddy's unemployment benefits ran out that month. I'm using my Big D money to pay him and to keep the doors open. It was the first week in August when from out of nowhere 2 FBI agents show up at my store. After showing me their ID, the one who's taking charge, Agent William Farrell, takes out 2 big manila envelopes from his briefcase. He opens one of them up and takes out photographs with some familiar faces on them. People like Joseph Big Joe Gamtucci, Lou the Arn Gamtucci, Joey Stakes Gamtucci, Gino Shorty Boy Ferrante, Tony Numbers Bernardo, and Johnny Detroit Johnny Delino. Agent Farrell asked me how I knew these people. I told him from Atlantic City casinos. He asked me what I was doing with them in the casinos. I told him gambling. "That's it?" he asked. I said, "That's it." Then he opens up the other envelope and takes out more photographs. The first one he shows me is me and Joey Stakes going into his Lincoln Town Car outside the Coliseum. Then a few of me and Joey standing outside of his Lincoln at the Golden Mine self-parking garage. They're all not easy to make out, but in one of them it looks like he's giving me packs of money and I'm putting them in the pockets of his black leather blazer he gave me to wear. There's one of me and Joey with Rosie Love from Massages R Us. The last one he shows me, you see me and Joey mob hugging in the Atlantis nightclub. I ask him why is he showing me these photographs, and he asks me if I ever heard of the RICO Act. I walked into the baccarat pit. On my way to a table, I ran into Lou Gamtucci. "How have you been, kid? You still hitting them pretty good?" "I'm trying, Lou, but they don't make it easy." "Tell me about it. This fucking joint is getting like the rest of them. They better start straightening up their act around here. If they don't, they won't be seeing me or the rest of my family down here. Hey, kid, are you here to see the fight?" "Nah. It should be a great one, but I figure while everyone's at the fight, there'll be a good shot that the baccarat pit will be empty, and I like to play head up, so I plan on doing a little fighting myself right here. Kid, I like the way you think. If you're going, Lou, here, take my seat. It's ringside. I reached in my pocket for the ticket. Lou's about to light one of his hoagie-sized cigars when a young mob-looking dude with dark glasses and wearing a black leather blazer comes over. He's got the perfect look for if there ever was a Mafia or Us magazine. This is my boy, Lou said. Joey, say hello to my friend, Richie Venture. How you doing, Richie? We shook hands, then he moved in closer to Lou, and in a low voice he said, Dad, we gotta talk. Richie, wait here, Lou said. I'll be right back. They walked over to the other side of the baccarat pit. I watched them speaking with their hands moving. Once the hands stopped moving, the conversation was over. Joey left and Lou walked back over. Kid, you want to meet the champ before the fight? The champ? You know him? Know him? I own him. Come on, I'll take you down to where he's warming up. He put his paw-like hand on my shoulder and we walked out of the pit. Two of Lou's buddies and a security guard joined us. We get into the service elevator, and the security guard pushes the basement floor button. The elevator door opens, and we made our way past the press waiting outside the door where the champ is. The security guard opens the door. I follow Lou and his boys into the room. There's a lot of people inside. Lou's son Joey is in the back of the room with the champ who was shadowboxing. Lou turns around and motions for me to follow him. We were halfway to the champ when I hear my name called out in a raspy voice. Richie the Tailor. I looked in the direction from where my name was called out, and who do I see sitting there with his buddies, Gino and Tony? On each side of him is Big Joe, the old gent who I rolled the dice for in the Golden Mines. I had to think fast. I didn't want to disrespect anyone, so I weighed my options, the champ or Big Joe. I walked over and put out my hand. After shaking his, Big Joe gives me the traditional mob hug. Tony and Gino do the same. Lou and Joey come over. Lou says, Pop, is this the guy from your crap story you're always talking about? That's my boy, Big Joe said, with his hand on my shoulder. Joey comes in and says, my grandfather hasn't stopped telling that story. We were starting to think he dreamt it up. Yo, champ, Big Joe hollers out. Get over here and say hello to my friend, Richie the Tailor. While I'm getting more attention than the champ, I'm doing the math. Big Joe is Lou's father. That makes him Joey's grandfather. And that puts me in bed with one big happy New York family.